Record. Hola a todos. This is Abelardo de la Peña Jr. con la Plaza de Cultura y Artes. We are going live on Zoom and we're connecting to Facebook. So if you give me one quick second as I make sure this works. You see next to me there, or if full screen, or I don't know how you're set up on your screen, Mr. Phillip Rodriguez, our guest for tonight. Tonight's session of En Casa con la Plaza. En Casa con la Plaza número 10. This is our 10th edition. It started 2 weeks ago. And we are live. And I'm connecting with Facebook Live, clicking on that. And it says broadcast error. Please try again. Well,
wouldn't you know?
Wouldn't you know? Okay, so I'm gonna dismiss, go live. No, broadcast error, please try again. Well, I'm gonna be trying while I'm talking, okay? So here goes.
All right.
My name is Abelardo de la Peña Jr., Director of Marketing and Communications with La Plaza de Cultura y Artes in downtown Los Angeles, right across from Olvera Street, a place we've been for almost 10 years. Next year will be our 10th anniversary of our opening in 2011. We tell those stories, those untold and little known stories about Mexicans, Mexican-Americans, Chicanos, Latinos in the history, growth, and evolution of our beautiful city here, Los Angeles, which I miss dearly because I'm here at home, as many of you have been. Unless you're an essential worker, then of course you're out there helping out our communities. And I'm trying here again with this Facebook Live. So if you could hang on there for one quick second, it's always something, isn't it? What do you think, Phillip?
That's Rosanna. That's yeah. I mean, you know, this brave new world. We can't. As like one, and my internet connection is unstable, but I'm unstable too. So I'm a stink over here.
All right.
And
so what are we talking about tonight?
You know,
we have a title.
Yeah, title schmeidel. You know, you always in documentary, you title the film at the end when you figure out what it is. By the end, it tells you what to name it. But, you know, like conversations are like that too, right? You just you get to where you get to, and then you can put a name on it. But again, we're talking about documentary. We're talking about Mexican American culture, LA history. I don't know, man. Claiming the narrative like La Plaza does for us collectively, and I've tried to do here. And I've seen their Facebook. We're live on Facebook, Abelardo.
Are we?
Yeah, I see a button on the left, and we know that Zuckerberg and his crew never lie. So it's got to be true.
Okay, so it is true. I'll take your word for it.
Outstanding.
Oh, I do see the little live thing. I'm going to have to, let's see, move things around here. Thank you very much for you out there who are very patient with us. We're experiencing this new technology. Again, for you who are joining us on Facebook Live, my name is Abelardo de la Peña Jr., Director of Marketing and Communications. This is La Plaza de Cultura y Artes Zoom sessions called En Casa con la Plaza, and we do have a title to this fabulous session with Phillip Rodriguez. It's called Higher Cinematic Truth Telling.
Ooh.
With Phillip Rodriguez, documentary filmmaker. And I'm going to just tell you a little bit about Phillip that I have written here, since I went through all this trouble of writing these things down.
You might as well.
Read them. So Phillip, he's an award-winning documentary filmmaker. His last 4 films for public TV were broadcast in primetime, and they've received wide acclaim, and they've also received some awards. He founded City Projects in 2002. It's a production company whose films and educational programs challenge ideas about race and diversity in America. His documentary films bring to light the complexities of Latino culture, history, and identity at a time when our nation's demographics reflect the changes, not only of the US, but particularly here in LA. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. on what's been going on here in LA from 50 years ago on to just maybe today. So Philip.
Well, first of all, Abelardo, so good to see you again, brother. I don't see you enough, and seeing you, and you're, by the way, I want to say I've watched a number of these charlas that you do internet, and you've done a very good job. And I think that I don't see any reason why you shouldn't have your own night talk show, you know, Abelardo, happy hour, Abelardo. So what we're going to work on we're going to work on the title, but you're very good at this. You create a really great homey environment, and
well, thank you. I appreciate that.
you're one of them. So I'm happy to be here.
All right. Well, here I'm going to get back to, for you out there, we have a chat. If you're on Zoom, a little chat function. You could go ahead and give us questions, comments. We have a Q&A.
How cool.
On Facebook Live. If I could find Facebook Live again, which I just did.
And we know that Zuckerberg and his crew never lie.
So that was me.
That's you, yes. So I could see here that Carlos Aguilar, someone you know, is asking truth. What is truth? So,
oh, Jesus.
So
Carlos.
let's start there. A documentary filmmaker, we assume, is somebody who is telling not a fictional story, but something that is truthful. That's the assumption.
Yeah. All of cinema and all of TV it's a manipulation. So ultimately, if you wanted truth, you do like Yoko Ono did and infamously shot the Eiffel Tower, rather the Empire State Building for 48 hours and ran 16 millimeter film, and that's not really digestible, not watchable. So certainly there's lots of intervention in documentary, but what separates it from the fiction narrative is that you're not really constructing sets or creating character or writing dialogue for people, but rather you're taking the micro dramas and the ideas and characters that exist in the world that you see. And I've always been really bit turned on by that, and particularly the opportunity for a culture like ours that has been so poorly rendered, has been so misrepresented in commercial cinema and television, that this was a chance to, this career would give me a chance to kind of capture and disseminate some of the wonders and tragedies of our experience, our people, right, and possibilities. That's for. Oh, your sound is silent now.
Here it goes. I'm on now.
Okay.
Little button here. It's mute because I
think I talk so fucking much that it just knocked your shit out. It was no need.
What happens is I live close to the train tracks.
I see.
On that side of town, and so I get the ding ding ding, and I just wanted to mute that, but we'll just let it slide.
Oh, good, brother. Well done. Well done.
All right. Thank you. Anyway, we'll start with something that was.
Hey, thanks, Carlos, for that question.
Your most recent documentary, which in fact Carlos had a little bit of a role. Carlos Aguilar, thank you for joining us, Carlos. He was your social media guru during that time, sending out some incredible Instagram posts, Twitter, Facebook. He was on it. Not
seriously.
Just,
I mean, you could make a case that the social media campaign was better than the film. I think the film was very good, but the social media campaign was really on it. And Carlos, I asked him to, the problem with public television and the problem with the social documentary is that young raza is not watching that very much. PBS is not fundamentally designed for young Latinos. It's old white lady TV, really. And so understanding that, the opportunity introduce Oscar Acosta to in a medium, in spaces where they congregate. So Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, Carlos killed it. Really, forever grateful for the job he did.
Well, good. Well, I'm going to start with the trailer to the film that we're referring to. It's called The Rise and Fall of the Brown Buffalo. It was released in 2018, and it was until recently it was still on the festival circuit. Is that correct?
Yeah, until the festival circuit got chewed up by COVID. We've been traveling the world. I mean, we won prizes in from Bergen County, New Jersey, to places in India I can't pronounce, to Lagos, Nigeria, and you know, really extraordinary run for a culture that's been so obscure by and large, like the Mexican American experience, and like Oscar Acosta, so forgotten. To think that he was getting to travel the world on his own terms and getting celebrated makes me feel real good.
All right, good. Well, here we're going to show start with the trailer. Let's see. Well, one thing I didn't do was to share my screen. Again, this is a new medium here, and it's going to be a little jumbly for a little while, but then we'll get to it. Okay, here's my shared screen. All right, you see that jumble of stuff on my desktop? I think I need a bigger desktop, don't I?
Maybe a bigger desk.
LA's Chicano movement was looking for a powerful voice. Oscar said Acosta was looking for meaning.
He's smart as hell, shrewd. He's also a risk taker.
Acosta would become one of his generation's most forceful critics of white supremacy until everything started unraveling around him.
There is such potential in that man, but people weren't ready for him.
A new documentary rescues his dramatic story from obscurity.
All right. Well, that was the trailer. What do you say?
Well, it's staggered like crazy, but you get the essence if you can understand whatever language that was. What do I say? What I mean? What do you say?
Well, I say that it was a powerful, and it is a powerful documentary. Relatively little known story within our community. The Chicano Mexican American community. This is a wild, intellectual, renegade, rebellious, I'd say MFer, but you know, but who was clearly on the right side of history, but maybe at the wrong time in the personal. Tell us a little bit about Oscar.
You know, Oscar was, you know, extraordinary. He's so funny. I haven't talked about him in a while. Oscar was a protean person. He was a novelist. He wrote 2 novels. He was a civil rights lawyer. He was a poet. He was, you know, an activist, a revolutionary, a shit disturber, fearless, crazy, Baptist minister, by the way, also. He had many, many lives and became infamous as Dr. Gonzo in Hunter Thompson's Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which became a countercultural classic. Despite Oscar's great identity, personality, charisma, intelligence, fury, charm, he was really, with the exception of Fear and Loathing, he was kind of invisible in American cultural narrative at large, you know. So I felt like that was an injustice. So I felt like it was important to flesh him out a little bit and give audiences a chance, the American culture, raza, most importantly, a chance to see what people like that were up to.
All right. Well, we're going to show a short clip here. Before we get to the questions, we asked Oscar Garza, for instance, asking, why did you decide to do it as a docudrama? And that's, you'll see a little bit of that in this clip. Okay, so I'm gonna bring it up. Let me let me share the screen again.
You're doing great, Abelardo, by the way.
And here we are. Brown Buffalo clip. It's rolling.
The sheriff was sending out 15 or 20 helicopters to scan the barrio with huge sweeping searchlights that drove Oscar and his people into fits of blind rage.
Deputies come out of the East LA Sheriff's Station in teams of 2 to protect and serve, always with 36-inch clubs and 357 Magnums in their holsters. They are eternal enemies of the people.
Several people had died at the hands of the cops at the East LA Sheriff's Station. And Oscar just exploded. He wasn't going to let it go.
I do not see any other man who was willing to take on the responsibility of telling the people the facts and to propose to them the radical solutions to their problems. I hereby declare my candidacy for the office of Sheriff of Los Angeles County.
There you go. And
Okay.
This is what
That's a rough way to watch a film. That's a rough way to watch a film. But we'll address Oscar Garza's question, right?
Yes, docudrama. If you could
Why
explain what
dramatize
docudrama-
it? Listen. I mean, when I started on this venture to make a documentary about Oscar Acosta, the great legacy that he left were the two books, and all his letters to Hunter Thompson, who was a great collector, archivist of his own correspondence. And there was very little in the way of photographs, very, very little in the way of newsreel footage. Once again, because the Mexican-American history was not deemed important, wasn't front and center in the imagination of the people that control the media or take the photographs, or the editors of the LA Times or anybody else. So he was rendered to the margins of kind of archival resources. So ultimately, in order to accomplish our aims, we had to recreate him. We had his letters, we had his voice, but we didn't have pictures of him speaking his voice. So we basically cast actors to flesh out the literary legacy, and it turned out to be really fun, rambunctious, and interesting cross-pollination thing.
All right, and as you said, it has been traveling the festival circuit. It's won awards. We've had a great reception, and in fact, I'd like to share with our audience. It had a fantastic reception at La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. If I could find the link here, and amongst all this crazy.
And you will.
I will eventually, yes. Okay, let's see. Okay, I'm currently looking at my different screens here, and I'm gonna share the screen again so you can see what a mess this is. But you don't need to know that, do you?
You know, it's funny because your living room is very tidy, Abelardo.
Oh, well, thank you. I thank my wife, for Linda de la Peña,
Yeah,
for really being the creative genius behind all the thing you see behind me.
Oh, well,
She's
kudos to her.
Well, thank you. Here goes sharing screen again. I'm going to open up this window here. I'm going to make it bigger. And this is, in fact, in 2018, we were privileged to have the West Coast premiere of The Rise and Fall of the Brown Buffalo at La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. We worked with a group out of Washington, D.C. who helped us. Go ahead.
They present something called, oh gosh, what's the name of it? A great film festival, civil rights films. And they primarily focus on African-American civil rights, but they were great. They wanted to partner with us, Mexican-Americans. They came out and to LA, and you guys created a great show.
Well, thank you. And here, maybe a little out of order, but there we go. The two brown buffaloes side by side.
Too many buffaloes spoil the broth.
Up against the wall.
Orale. That's Alison Sotomayor, the producer of the show's great vision. You know, she so much of this film was about her zeal and intelligence and grace and charm.
I believe Allison is joining us on Facebook Live today.
Well, I'm glad I said so. I want my ass kicked again.
Allison served as the producer for the documentary, correct?
She sure did, and then some.
All right. And we had a great crowd there. We had the Michi Mobile.
My goodness.
I think they were serving IPA that night. No, probably not. Micheladas, most definitely. John Echevesta, our CEO of La Plaza de Cultura y Artes, who's also in tonight's audience. Big full house.
It was a hell of a night.
Seats were filled.
Yeah,
that came a little late.
There's a lot of buffaloes.
Yes. There he is again. What was going through your your consciousness that evening, that night?
What was left of it? When you finish a film, there's not a lot left of you. So when you have to do your press, basically you're kind of exhausted and worn out. And I don't particularly recall. I'm just basically really delighted, pleased. I mean, the fact that there's a cultural institution like La Plaza now at this time in history is to our great fortune collectively. There he is. And I'm just felt lucky.
All right. Well, we were lucky to have you. And there's Allison.
She is. Tell it like it is.
She's been very helpful to La Plaza throughout the years as well.
Great lady.
Eric Huerta, local poet, writer, raconteur, social media giant as well.
Beautiful.
The only walls we build are walls of death, says his shirt there. Had a great band that evening. What do you think?
Oh man, that was so exciting. That made me happy. The point of Oscar, there's so many civil rights films and commemorations that are dreary and sanctimonious and dull, and Oscar was not those things. Oscar was a party animal. He was a wild guy, and his great slogan was, "The revolution doesn't have to be a drag. You can be doing right and having fun." And so that's what we did.
All right, good. Well, a little while ago, you referred to the LA Times, that they continue to really put a lot of effort in covering our community.
No, I mean, I think, by and large, historically, they've marginalized the Mexican American, and the Mexican American weren't their readers by and large, right? So they spoke to the audience that was paying the subscription and the advertising, and it wasn't us. And increasingly, that's changed. In the last 5 years, have been maybe a renaissance of Latino representation at the LA Times. There are a lot of terrific people there, and I'm very hopeful. But historically, that hasn't been the case.
All right. Well, that leads us to our next documentary, the one that you did right before, not immediately before Brown Buffalo. Ruben Salazar, Man in the Middle, who 50 years ago, almost this summer, August 29th, suffered a big injustice. Basically, he was murdered. And murder implies intent. He was killed. He was killed. Okay, stand corrected. Well, let's check out the trailer, and then if we could talk a little bit about that documentary, please.
Sure.
Okay, here we go again with sharing the screen.
You're getting better.
All right. I'm remembering how this works. Ruben Salazar trailer. Let's move this one out of the way, and let's click this button. Come on, button. No, doesn't appear to be working. Oh, something's happening.
In an explosive era, journalist Ruben Salazar challenged the status quo and gave voice to a new movement.
When he began to talk about what he really felt about things, people were shocked.
In 1970, he was shot dead by an LA County sheriff.
The police phoned him and said, "Stop stirring up the Mexicans."
Accident or assassination? A new documentary investigates the life and death of this pioneering reporter.
All right.
Okay.
That was quite a documentary. It was shown on PBS. It was also released. It did the festival circuit. It was 2012, I believe.
Amazon Prime, I think it's 2014. Amazon Prime, Canopy.com, for all of you who are interested in seeing it, who haven't seen it, is now streaming it as of yesterday. And it was another story, again, another story of Mexican-American fundamental foundation story of the Chicano experience that for most North Americans didn't know a goddamn thing about. One of the most important stories of our people that had been completely left for dead. So we had to do it, had to be resurrected. The story had to be and completed. And it was also an incomplete story because it was at the end of the story, the story of a very interesting man, a very accomplished man, a man from El Paso whose family comes to LA, who marries a white gal, moves to Santa Ana, California, Orange County, becomes somehow an unlikely spokesperson for the Chicano movement, of which he was really not a part.
And that's hence the title "Man in the Middle." That he was,
Bridge.
yeah.
He had the bridge, and he had the opportunity to bridge and to speak for and interpret rather that this weird urban rebellion of the Chicano generation to white LA Times readers and to middle class Latinos who were not necessarily amenable or sympathetic to the Chicano thing. So he was really caught in a kind of a ideological crossfire, and ultimately in a quite literal crossfire. Hands of the LA County Sheriff amidst an event gone wrong. So we in order to tell the story, and all the pieces of the story weren't available. So the LA County Sheriff, he was killed by an LA County Sheriff deputy, fired off a projectile, what's it called? A tear gas projectile. Sorry, the beer just hit. The tear gas to a bar in which Ruben was taking a break from the violence and the activity, and the sheriff department had not been forthcoming about letting the public see the public records, and there had been many efforts made to get this data, and we were determined. And with the help of Tom Sines, the executive director of head counsel at MALDEF.
Mm-hmm. You're cut off a little bit there.
Well, I'm not saying anything important, so that works just fine. So we sued the sheriff, and you know the old song, "I shot the sheriff." But we shot the sheriff, and or the other song, "I fought the law and the law won." Well, this time we turned the tables and actually beat the law, and we won our legal contest against the sheriff department, and the sheriff department was forced to give up these boxes, and with those boxes, we were able to tell a very compelling story about the life of this guy.
All right, and if things work out this summer or later on this fall, we had scheduled to show the Ruben Salazar Man in the Middle at La Plaza as part of a programming of our exhibit that we're currently curating and putting together on the Chicano moratorium, the 50th anniversary of the National Chicano Moratorium that took place in East LA that ended in this tragedy of Ruben Salazar, and I believe also the death of three other people, as well as the injury to body and soul, and a lot
of souls. I mean, there's a lot to say about it, but I won't say anything at this point. But I'm looking forward to it. If we're still alive, we'll have a screening.
We will.
Okay, Abelardo.
All right. So another recent documentary. I don't know if it was immediately preceded this. Ruben Salazar is somebody that is well known to the Chicano Latino community, and also to a TV watching community, and even movies. I mean, the Vatos appeared in quite a few, and on stage throughout the U.S., sellout shows. I think he's sold out more shows at the Microsoft Theater than anybody else, or so I hear. But here we go. A documentary called "Brown is the New Green." So here's the clip, and I'm sure. Well, no, let me first share the screen again. I got a little ahead of myself there. All right, let me pop this up. Let me turn this on.
When I was young, all the important dudes wore suits. Can I speak to the manager? Can I help you? It's the guy in the suit, man. The manager's not wearing a FUBU jersey. Sellout shows all over the United States. It tells everybody it's not a fluke, man. It's real. And it's one dude, man. It's one dude. When when I was young, all the important dudes
Worth seeing twice, maybe.
It's a good trailer, but you know.
All right, if I could find it, I'll turn it back off.
It's all good.
Sorry about that.
all over the
Oh.
United
Here we
States.
go.
It tells
Let me mute
everybody.
this for a little quick second.
It's real.
Oh, now you muted yourself, Abelardo. Well, the host of this evening is me tonight, and Abelardo has been rendered mute. No, we'll wait for you, sir. Once you get a control of that computer.
Okay, I think it.
Well done. I think
Yes,
you've done it.
well, thank you.
Damn.
Well, tell us about the genesis.
What about George? George, I mean, you know, I was really interested in the kind of counterfeit identity that commercial culture has offered up of Latinos. Because there are very few Mexican-American executives in the business, very few green lighters, very few showrunners. At that point, I'm really excited about Vida and other expressions that have happened since. I was really always, like many of us, a little frustrated with the incomplete, sometimes unkind representation of our experience. George had an uncommonly successful sitcom at that point. I don't remember what network was. I think it was ABC.
ABC, yes.
And I said, wow, I asked George, I'd like to use you as a means to investigate how this industry does what it does to shape the identity of our people and what it is you're doing about it. And George is an advocate of his raza. He's a complex guy, but he's a smart guy and a passionate guy who I think cares a great deal about his story and the story of our folks. And so use that opportunity to make a film, which is a pretty strange one and worth seeing.
And where can people see it?
That's a good one. It's not shown anywhere now. So I'm going to have to figure out how to screen it in my mom's garage or something, and we'll invite everybody over.
We'll do this. We'll do one of these.
All right. Very good.
You'll figure it out. We'll figure it out.
We'll have it stream a little better.
All right. Okay. And I have a couple of other clips here. We have some questions.
Let's have questions now. Let's have some questions.
Let's ask some questions. Okay.
I'd like to talk.
Let's hear from some guy out here named John Echeveste. He's asking, why didn't Hunter acknowledge Oscar as a Chicano? We're talking about Hunter S. Thompson, the writer, the raconteur. Why didn't he acknowledge Oscar as a Chicano? He also called him the Big Samoan. Could you maybe? I can't speak for Hunter, John, but Hunter was a guy from Louisville, Kentucky. And I don't imagine that he was a person of heightened sensitivity for identities of others. Certainly, he was a friend of Oscar's and a kind of a frenemy, a friendly rival. And certainly, he understood that Oscar was such an original identity that there's material there that a writer could appropriate to create great art. And in fact, that's what he did. Hunter rendered Oscar in a grotesque, over the top, maybe ungenerous way, but he did put him on the map. Mm-hmm. If you're going to write a story and you want yourself to be seen, write it yourself. You cannot rely on anybody to represent your experience in a way that's going to satisfy you, if you have any brains at all. And that's exactly what Oscar did when he saw what Hunter had done with him. He threatened to sue. Okay, a little halt right here. Got the opportunity to create 2 books. Right. He did write 2 books. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. And that's why in both these cases, the people, Ruben Salazar and Oscar Acosta, left behind written word, so we could pass on their feelings, their identities, their impressions, and their lives going forward. And those were the raw materials we used to make these projects, to realize them and push them forward. So I think it's really, really incumbent upon us as a people to lay down a record of our lives. Otherwise, lest we be easily pushed aside and our memory be, buried. Here we have a comment from Alison Sotomayor. She's
I
saying
know her.
Filmmakers have a duty to be honest and create stories that engage, inform, and inspire. I think it will be interesting for the audience to know from your perspective, are documentaries inherently biased? Is everything about film distortion? Yes or no, or in between?
I mean, any telling of an account of anything by any one member of a tribe is going to prejudice the opinions of that person who's telling. The person who tells the story of, let's say, Christmas Day at my grandmother's house in Alhambra in 1972, whoever gets to tell that story, and whoever gets to tell that story, and that story is disseminated to others, is going to have control of the narrative. So family experiences quite differently, and sometimes there's great disputes. Well, I won't be too personal about things. So, so I think that it's hard to say. It's hard to know precisely what truth, whose truth, when. And my own truths in my own life have changed over time. And after the third IPA, there'll be another truth that comes down the road. So, that's the best I can do.
Okay. All right. Well, before we get too carried away, we're going to show a couple more clips. Okay. This is one from a fairly recent or going backwards on Los Angeles. It was called.
Yeah, it was called Los Angeles Now, and it was a strange one.
Well, and
beautiful film.
This came out when?
I don't know the name. I don't know I'm merciful with myself, so I forget the years.
Okay,
so I don't know. But it was coming near 2001, 2000. I don't know. But it's very beautiful. It's very handsome. Didn't always make a lot of sense, but it was beautifully shot by Claudio Rocha. Beautifully shot, and it got a lot of controversy. Took a little bit of a beating for it, but and in some ways deservedly, in some ways not, because we were challenging the story as it existed, right? The story of Los Angeles as a white city, as a noir city, or whatever else you want to project onto it. And we were insisting maybe some kind of Mexican American brown version of Los Angeles. And so, take some shit, but it's a pretty film. Let's see it.
Let's check it out. Getting there. Might take a little while to load up. Give it a nudge.
Uh-oh.
You could easily see Los Angeles splitting in half. In fact, the West Side culture becoming more effete and more like Florence and Milan / Los Angeles, and the East Side becoming almost an alternative culture to the West Side.
We used to have the railroad tracks. Now we have the 405, the freeway. That's the great divide.
There's a really clear delineation between West Side and East Side, definitely. But I don't know where you go. It just seems as though if you live on the West Side, you look a little different. Westwood's kind of east, as east as I go.
If I'm on the other side of aviation, I go, I'm a fish out of where I'm flipping around. Okay, now I'm over here. In Los Angeles, you buy the air quality. If you can afford it, your air quality is 10 times what it is 10 miles out. You're by the sea. You buy a cooler climate. You have a summer that gets up into the mid-80s and goes into the high 60s at night. 15 miles east, they have a summer that's in the hundreds and never gets below 85. And the air is foul.
And the air is foul.
The air is foul.
That was Michael Ventura. I don't remember any of you remember him. He was a columnist from the LA Weekly, and quite an interesting cat. And that film was pretty polemical. And again, the idea was this was a city that one of the Norman Chandler, one of the LA Times publishers, had proudly declared to be the white spot of America. He meant that racially, and he meant that ethically, And to have seen it in my lifetime come from, you know, we've got to remember when Salazar is killed in 70, that moratorium, Mexican Americans were Latinos, 13% of the population. Flash forward today, we're majority, effectively half. And so the civilization has changed profoundly. Now, the way the civilization is understood and represented primarily by movies and TV has not as in any way reflect the reality that we live. Mm-hmm. So this film was an effort to address that particular contradiction. And so.
Well, you answered a question that we have here from Oscar Garza. How is today's LA different than when you made that film?
Gosh, you know, I mean, it's more of the same fundamentally. I think that, you know, gosh, there's so many things. I think that what is the same, and what's this COVID episode illustrates so terribly, is that the class divide of this place is grotesque. This is. I remember going to Mexico as a kid and seeing the radical disparities of wealth manifested on the streets. And those are when I was a boy in LA in the 70s, there were no homeless people on the streets. There were no Hoovervilles, shanty towns. The society in the course of my lifetime has become the divide of wealth has become much apparent, much more obvious, much more grotesque, the contradiction greater. And of course, the Browns, our people, are the ones that are the very bottom of the totem pole by and large, and suffering the worst of this pandemic. And whereas many of the elites, all of them fundamentally whites, but they make very few exceptions, are living in enclaves that are much more protected, able to stay at home and not subject themselves to this thing. So I think, as far as class goes, I think it's a, I don't want to be pontificate about this too much, but you know, we're in a place now where the class contradiction of the city is going to be very difficult to not speak about on a regular basis. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that class contradiction is also interrelated with race and ethnicity.
All right. Well, here a comment from Laura Iturralde says it's still evident here on the border town of Calexico, California, where she's writing from. And that takes us to the last clip. This is working out so well, better than we planned. But it's taking us back to our last clip of one of your earlier docs, Mixed Feelings, San Diego, Tijuana, a documentary film about the San Diego, Tijuana region and its inevitable transnational future. And we're going to go ahead and share the screen one more time. Click on that. There we go, Mixed Feeling clip. Move that over. Fill the screen. Click the button.
Take a look around. We don't have to follow no economical tendency. Why? Because we don't have money. So we cannot follow a tendency that falls into an economic category, because what we have is necessity.
This guy has two bags. He has to choose between a loaf of bread or a brick, and has to build a little house in this hillside. And there's one way he's going to be doing it, and that way ends up being pretty organic.
This guy came and built this house. He wanted just to cross the border, like everybody comes here. But while he was finding the coyote to cross over the border, he got a job at a maquiladora. So in the maquiladora, they gave him pallets, and the guy from the llantera gave him the wheels. And the guy built his house. The next year, he has a second story. He even put plaster. I mean, all of a sudden, watching his direct TV, he says, "Oh man, it's been 6 years and I'm still here." So all of a sudden, Tijuana didn't become the trampoline for the pool. It became the end of the rainbow. Out of the emergency of living, what is ephemeral becomes permanent. That's the whole thing. What is ephemeral becomes permanent.
Powerful.
Did you say powerful?
Yes, I did. Now I'm going to ask this question, and I'm also going to answer it for you. Okay. The question was, what was the motivation behind the documentary? And this is what you said back in 2002. And
I was lying.
When 2012.
Go ahead.
My mother grew up on that border, on the U.S. side of the Otay Mesa. When I was a boy, there were acres and acres of pepper trees, fields of cucumbers and land. Now I go there and I don't recognize anything. I wanted to take stock of how much things had changed, and more importantly, where the border area might be going.
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. That's a film about contradictions. You know, I think it was Octavio Paz once said that there's no two countries, and I'm not sure this is true or not, but that are more dissimilar, that share a border than the U.S. and Mexico. You can make an argument, and you feel the departure from Gringolandia, and San Diego is a very specific expression of a gringo culture. It's a kind of a border cop identity. It's very rigid, very severe. It was very white for a long time. It's the home of the Pacific Fleet, you know, very police state-minded place. And Tijuana, by contrast, is loosey-goosey and inclusive. And when you look, so this film, when you look at an aerial footage of the border, Tijuana leans into San Diego. It physically builds all the way up to the very edge. There's neighborhoods and streets and kids playing soccer right at the edge of Tijuana, where San Diego doesn't begin itself until quite a distance back, and that distance has changed since. But it's also been more avoidant of Tijuana. Always been a little bit skittish about Tijuana, whereas Tijuana has been very eager about San Diego. And so that film was about examination of urban expression, of urban planning, or lack of planning, or way that two civilizations build themselves, and what that says about who they are. Fun film to make.
All right. Well, beautiful film. And where could we see that?
You know that one, you got to buy the DVD, and all of them are available at philliprodriguez.co, by the way. And who doesn't need a good plug?
All right. philliprodriguez.co.
CO.
All right. CO. Well, I'm going to go to some questions that we have here.
Oh, I'd love questions.
All right, here goes. Just want to know what John asks Allison. What are the untold Chicano stories or other stories that you'd like to film in the future?
Is this a question for Allison or a question for me?
Question for you.
Oh, geez. I don't, I think there's so many. It's extraordinary. And they're not necessarily all Chicano stories. Some are Mexican stories. Some are border stories. We just got started. I mean, we really simply at the very, very beginning of unearthing. I mean, not to say I didn't begin it. And this is the Chicanos have been doing this for quite some time. The Severo Perez's and Jesus
Trevino.
Great storytelling and filmmaking going on for quite some time against quite sizable odds. So the great news is when you've been ignored, when you've been seen and not very well, the filmmakers have a great opportunity to uncover. And there's stories now, people being born, and there's people coming back from the war, and there's going to be some heroes coming out of the COVID, or some great terrorist who's going to attack a city hall with the Z on the end of his name, and who knows, man. But if we all survive, the future, of course, is going to be ours, right? We keep on having babies. Other parts of the culture don't. I saw a Gerber's bottle, the African American child, the other day, and I said, "Wow, this is the new. This is black girl." And you know why? Because more births in the U.S. as about 3 years ago were from non-white people than whites, which is why a lot of white people are acting the fool now, because they know the end is nigh for their primacy, at least demographically, right? So there's going to be a lot of opportunities, a lot.
All right. Well, we have one question here from Ale Bausa, a good friend who works at the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. She's asking, do you have your work preserved at a university or a film archive?
Gosh, Ali, that's a great question. we have donated a lot of our the effort we took to make Salazar, the effort we took to make Oscar Acosta films. We donated all the archival footage that we found and the resources and the archival data to USC and UCLA respectively. And I have it in my underground bunker. I built a Dick Cheney style bunker with lots of Diet Coke under my house in Highland Park. Not really. So no, but if you have any ideas, I'd be love to know where would be best to preserve this stuff.
All right. Well, we'll
thanks for asking.
We'll find something out. Thank you, Ale, for that question. I think we're almost out of time here. Philip, this has been fabulous. I hope our audience out there in Casa as we are, have been enjoying this this really brief glimpse of the fabulous, really thought-provoking work that that Philip has presented to us. And here, Audrey, philiprodriguez.co about. Oh yeah, Alia says that she'll let me know about her work at the Academy. Just with that, I'd like to thank you all. We're gonna give a couple shout outs to what we're doing at La Plaza de Cultura y Artes. As I said, this En Casa series started 3 weeks ago on Monday. I forgot the date. This is our 10th session. We've interviewed such luminaries alongside Philip as Gustavo Arellano, Lalo Alcaraz, right after he won his, he was a finalist for the Pulitzer in editorial cartooning. David Hayes Bautista, who gave us the real history of Cinco de Mayo, which the celebration started here in our city. You could find all this at our website, lapca.org. We have archived all of our past sessions, recorded them, put them on our YouTube page at La Plaza LA. And then our upcoming sessions begin this Friday with Dan Guerrero, who's going to talk about his documentary, self-published, I guess you could call it, Gaytino, which talks about his journey as a kid from the East Side who went to Broadway, came back, and has become very active and one of the leaders in the community in the entertainment and as an activist. Next week we have Tirsa. On Mondays we give cooking demonstrations. We've had Jocelyn Ramirez teaching us how to make pipián rojo vegan style. We had Maite Gomez Rejon from Art Bites demonstrating how to make Sonora style flour tortillas. And so this is going to go on. We are hoping to open La Plaza de Cultura y Artes along as our other cultural institutions as quickly as we can, but as safely as we can. We don't have a date yet, but we will keep you informed. But for now, we will continue these En Casa con La Plaza sessions. Any last comments, Philip?
No, it's just a pleasure. How funny. This is a strange new world, and you make it, because of your great affability and familiarity and warmth, you make it terrific and easy to do. So thank you.
Well, thank you. And I'd like to, of course, thank our sponsors.
But tell Echaveste that you need a new computer because this is not suitable.
Thank you. I'm sure it's noted. Would like to thank our sponsors who came up. They had previously helped us out with our programming, which is, La Plaza fans know, we do upwards of 70, 80 programs per year. Unfortunately, we've had to postpone or cancel almost all of them now. But we have Walmart, who came in as a sponsor, and we've had AARP California, who are co-sponsoring this En Casa con La Plaza. Latinx Zoom sessions. Yes, nice title. Anyway, thank you so much, Philip. Thank you, audience out there. Audrey, Esther, John, Maria, Anita, Gilson, Tilly Hinton, Marisofi Molina Ambris. Come back on Friday at 7 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Next Monday at 3 o'clock Pacific Standard Time. Keep up with what we're doing on our Facebook page at La Plaza LA, on Instagram, on Twitter, on even LinkedIn. But we're here for you, and we look forward to presenting more of these great stories about our community. Gracias, Philip. Buenas noches. Enjoy your IPA.
Thank you, my friends. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.